Good evening, dear sisters and brothers. Welcome to the evening session of Being Heartful Every Day with Swadhyaya. Yesterday, we introduced a new theme that will accompany us through the week, and that is the ego. We began to see how ego is not something inherently bad, but a function of the subtle mind that, when refined, can become a source of progress. Tonight, let us continue this exploration by reflecting on how the ego actually shows up in our lives. Ego is often quite subtle and hidden in the background. It manifests in simple thoughts like, I know better, this is mine, why not me, or even I am the doer. Most of the time, it doesn't roar loudly, but whispers in ways that influence our decisions, our relationships, and even our spiritual practice. Daji reminds us that the ego is like a veil. It clouds our perception and narrows our vision. And when unchecked, it makes us defensive, judgmental, and resistant to new ideas. Yet, when we begin to observe it without judgment, without resistance, ego itself becomes a teacher. It shows us where humility is needed, where surrender is possible, and where love can expand. Ego in daily life and practice. It could be in our work. It may appear as the desire to take credit. In our relationships, it may appear as hurt when someone does not acknowledge us. In meditation, it may appear as impatience or the thought that I'm not progressing enough. But if we turn the same ego towards higher purpose, it can fuel our aspiration. It can remind us that I will not rest until I do not attain the ultimate goal of human life. I will keep moving forward in my abhyas. I can become better than I was yesterday. This is how ego, when refined by humility, becomes an ally in our inner journey. Dear sisters and brothers, as we move ahead in the session, we encourage you to share the invitation of master classes and BHED sessions with your family and friends. A simple, gentle invitation to these sessions can open up a world of well being for a loved one. And for today's reflection, we'll be doing our inspirational reading from the article, which is Into the Great Unknown, an article by Daji. This is dated October 31st, 2021. Let us now read this together. Daji continues his series on refining habits, this month sharing his insights on the final niyam known as Ishwar Pranidhan, which is often translated as surrender to God. What does it mean? How can we understand both God and surrender? And why is surrender to God the ultimate habit? The Art of Removing and Creating Habits, Part 11. Yoga in Action. Let's start by reminding ourselves of the three niyamas that make up Kriya Yoga: the yoga of action, tapas, swadhyaya, and the third and final one, Ishwar Pranidhan, the most mysterious and puzzling of all. Ishwar Pranidhan is generally translated into English as surrender to God, or sometimes God awareness. It is puzzling, not the least, because God is such an elusive principle to most of us, and also because the idea of surrender often suggests the removal of personal freedom. Only in this last of the 10 yamas and niyamas does Patanjali speaks of God, Ishwar. Up till now, the focus has been on self awareness, self improvement, behavior, and purifying consciousness. That has all been a preparation. Throughout this preparation, we have moved from self centeredness and selfishness to selflessness, from me to we. Now, when we take the next step from we to thou, this is a significant shift in consciousness, a quantum leap into the realm of God where even we no longer exist. God is a great unknown. You may be wondering what God we are talking about here, because God has as many meanings as there are people. In yoga, God is the great unknown, beyond qualities, beyond comprehension. Everything that is describable or definable has qualities. And while God is also present within the world of qualities, the qualityless state that is beyond definition is really the realm of God. There are other words that are also used for the same divine principle, the source, the ultimate, the absolute. Remember the state of Nirodha or complete stillness we spoke about earlier in this series. That cessation of mental activity in the mind, the ultimate state of yoga, is also the key to God awareness. Nirodha and Ishwar Pranidhan are intertwined. The next question is how to get there. The approach needed is the surrender part. The purpose of surrender. When we look at the idea of surrender from a worldly perspective, it can be quite distasteful because it means to submit to an authority or to give in, often with a sense of being forced to do so. The ego generally doesn't respond well to that. We see this even in the best of relationships when we are asked to give in to the wishes of the other person. Who does this easily, willingly, and cheerfully? People who have fallen madly in love. They are very capable of surrender. They will do anything for the happiness of the other person. Generally, it doesn't last. However, as the ego eventually starts to make itself heard and the lover becomes aware of their own wishes, most of us have to learn how to let go and give it, which is why family life is such a wonderful training ground for spirituality. It is through our relationships that we learn to accept and submit to the other. Dear sisters and brothers, let's take a pause here and allow these words to reach your heart without effort. Let these insights settle naturally within. And now we'll offer the universal prayer together with the power of humility, unity, and love in our hearts. all brothers and sisters are being filled with love and devotion, and real faith is growing stronger in them. सभी भाई बहन प्रेम और भक्ति से भर रहे हैं और उनमें सच्ची श्रद्धा दृढ़ होती जा रही है। May the light of humility illuminate every heart, and may this universal prayer unites us all in the simple truth of selfless love and deep devotion in every heart. Dear sisters and brothers, as we come to the close of the day, let us take a few moments for inner reflection. Consider a time today where you felt a strong sense of, I did this, or this belongs to me. Can you identify how this feeling of ego may have subtly influenced your actions or your thoughts? As you prepare for sleep, allow your bedtime prayer to be a plea for humility, a quiet resolve to soften the rigid walls of the ego so that you may awaken to a lighter, more connected state of being. Dear sisters and brothers, thank you for being with us this evening today. Your participation is truly appreciated, and we look forward to our morning session with you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Until then, may your night be filled with deep rest and your heart with lasting peace. Wishing you all a very good